So, the other day we did talk about the potential changes that may happen with the NHL draft and its format. Well, building off of that idea, let's talk about that 2024 draft and go over some of the top prospects in this year's race. Now, the reason I say race is because at this point it seems like there are two guys at the top of the draft, not one, that could be equally fighting it out for first overall glory. The past few years, we have seen a little bit of a mixture of that. Some years we had the undisputed number one Connor Bedard, Jack Hughes, Dahlin. Other years it was a little bit more up in the air. Would Shane Wright go first? Would Logan Cooley go first, or Slavkovsky? And then before it was Owen Power, Beniers, which one is going to go first overall? This year we have more of one of those types of years, because at the top of the draft you have a consensus number 1 at the moment, followed very closely by a consensus number 2. Let's talk today about the seasons for Boston University Terriers MACKLIN Celebrini, as well as US NTDP goal scorer Cole Eiserman. Now, if you had been paying attention to the channel, you probably would have seen the other day we published a video talking about Tom Willander and Lane Hutson with BU. These guys were indeed part of that team with MACKLIN Celebrini, and they play later tonight at 7 p.m. I'm pretty sure it's EST considering Boston University is, in Boston. But for now, MACKLIN Celebrini, projected first overall pick, is a 6 feet, 190-pound left-handed forward from Vancouver, BC, Canada. He's ranked number 1 across the board, and with the NCAA this season, he's got 4 points in 2 games played. Very good resume for a guy who is starting out his NCAA career. For Celebrini, he has been dipsy-doodling and dangling by guys in the NCAA pretty nicely, and if you look at some of the quotes that are available on social media, you'll see that when it comes to the puck skills and the poise, he's just got that in spades. Of course, I'm not showing any clips here because, copyrighted material, but if we go over onto this article published on dailyfaceoff.com, Stephen Ellis from a few days ago goes out there and writes about Celebrini and how he's unstoppable at the moment. His shoulder injury last spring isn't causing him any issues. The Boston University freshman scored in his college debut versus Bentley before scoring twice against the University of New Hampshire on Friday. While he's still getting up to speed against older competition, Celebrini's high-end skill set is fully evident in the way he shoots, sets his teammates up, and attacks the play. He is first in team scoring early on, with his older brother, Vancouver Canucks prospect Aidan Celebrini, tying Lane Hutson, Tom Willander, and Jeremy Wilmer for second in points with 2 each. There you go. The guy is the top point producer on his team, and he is up there with other NHL prospects who are already drafted in terms of those point production numbers. Now, if you wanted to go over the comparisons here, of course, 2 points a game is awesome, and it's something that I don't know if he'll be able to maintain, but if he does, that'd be very nice. The guy who went 3rd overall last year, Adam Fantilli, had a lower points per game in the NCAA. He had 65 points in 36 games. Now, while he is only 7 points under a 2-point-per-game metric, you can't go out there and deny that Adam Fantilli, with a very glorious 1.8 points per game, was already the best player in the NCAA period. He won the Hobey Baker, he won it as a freshman, and only 2 other players have ever done that in Jack Eichel and Paul Kariya. So, there's a lot of star power here when a guy like MACKLIN Celebrini is outscoring, outproducing Adam Fantilli so far. You also had yourselves the Yahoo Sports article written by Ian Kennedy earlier last week, talking about how MACKLIN Celebrini is first overall projected, and his expectations are still high. He had a stellar season in the USHL last year, scoring 46 goals and 15 points in 7 games at the World Under-18s. He projects as a dynamic two-way center who could be a top-line player in the NHL for years to come. For all intents and purposes, Celebrini is going to be a guy who, if he maxes out to his best, think maybe Matty Beniers, but a little bit flashier, not really as great two-way. And the reason I'm saying Beniers and not somebody else like Connor Bedard or Jack Hughes is because I feel like Jack Hughes and Bedard have such high ceilings that I don't necessarily think Celebrini has. Like, that's no disrespect to MACKLIN Celebrini, but I do think that if he maxes out to the best that he could be, you're looking at a number 1 center, for sure, a guy who can dangle his way to the front of the net, a guy who can use his puck skills, his maneuverability to open up lanes and find really nice passing options, and a guy who could max out at, let's say, 80-85 points a year. That's definitely not a bad bet for a first overall projected prospect. However, the guy at number 2 is also pretty good, and I wanted to use some time here in this video to talk about him as well. The second overall projected consensus guy is Cole Eiserman, 17-year-old from Massachusetts, 6 feet 196, left-handed left-wing guy. Now Eiserman is ranked number 2 across the board, but the thing is, the entire idea with this year's draft is that the gap between 1 and 2, Celebrini Eiserman, is much smaller than the gap between 2 and 3, Eiserman and whomever else. Cole Eiserman this season with the US NTDP has 13 goals and 5 assists in 9 games played. This guy has legitimately gone out there as an over-goal-a-game player, and this should not come as a surprise to anybody who has been paying attention to Eiserman the past few years. We had talked about this briefly in the 2024 mock draft video we did a few weeks ago, but Cole Eiserman has been a goal-scoring machine everywhere he has gone. Take a look at his U14 numbers, 97 goals in 50 games with Shattuck St. Mary's. In the USHS Prep School League against U18 competition, 56 goals, 53 games. With the US NTDP U17 team, 43 goals in 42 games. He even had an extended stint with the US NTDP's regular U18 team last year as a 16-year-old, scoring 26 goals in 20 games. Cole Eiserman has been the best goal-scoring prospect we have seen statistically on paper since you could probably say Cole Caulfield. And it's interesting because they have the same name and they came from the same program. Cole Eiserman is also projected to going to Boston University next year, so if MACKLIN Celebrini decides to stick around in the NCAA a year after the draft, like Owen Power did, then Celebrini-Eiserman will be the absolute bombshell pairing to pay attention to in NCAA hockey next year. Let's go back over onto that Daily Faceoff piece published by Stephen Ellis and read what the number 2 overall projected pick Eiserman scouting report says. He has been the most dominant offensive force this year, starting the season with his point production in just 8 games. He started things off hot with 5 points in 2 games at the USHL Fall Classic, including a hat trick against Omaha, but then upped the ante with 4 goals against Green Bay to close out the month and 5 points against BU this past Saturday. It feels like a given that Eiserman will break Cole Caulfield's record of 72 goals in a season, especially after getting 69 goals a year ago. It seems like goaltenders across the USHL and NCAA are doing whatever it takes to help make that possible, too. The Yahoo Sports article goes out there and talks about how the NCAA was put on notice after Eiserman decommitted from Minnesota and committed to join Celebrini at BU. His shot is his best asset, as he can beat goaltenders and evade defenders with a quick and deceptive release. Eiserman toppled the 100-point mark last season with the US NTDP's development program, and he was dynamic for Team USA at the World Under-18s. He's on pace for another 100-point season and projects as a top-line producer in the NHL, and it could turn out to be a dealer's choice whether Celebrini or Eiserman end up going first overall. And so if you're paying attention with how things are going for Cole Eiserman, not only is this guy on pace to probably breaking Cole Caulfield's goal record, but he's a bit bigger too. So, there's always the incentivized nature that NHL GMs subconsciously have that says that they don't like smaller players. We know why Caulfield dropped to 15th, even though he had the numbers that were akin to guys at the very top of the draft. He dropped to 15th because he's only 5'7". If Cole Caulfield was the size of my cell phone taller, he probably would have been a top 5 pick, maybe even a top 3 pick. He could have dethroned Doc or Kako in that top spot. But for Cole Eiserman, he's already 6 feet tall, and he is a better goal scorer, statistically speaking, than Cole Caulfield was. So this guy going number 2, hey, if you're missing out on Celebrini and getting Eiserman instead, then that's totally fine. And besides, the guy's name is Eiserman. How crazy is that? There are more links than one to very great NHL players of the past and the present. So for Cole Eiserman, obviously he is going to be a good prospect, but the fact is his consolidated ranking is number 2. There are many scouts that believe that MACKLIN Celebrini is going to be the better player and the better prospect. So this two-headed race at the top of the draft is looking pretty sweet to start out the year. Sorry to Ivan Demidov, Aron Kiviharju, and everybody else who is projected to going 3 and beyond in the draft, but for now, at the time of recording this audio, it seems to be a 2-horse race. Now, disclaimer, of course, at the end of the video, I gotta say this, it's only October 19th, like it could be very, very different by the time January rolls around. After the World Juniors, somebody could really boost up their stocks there. I'm just saying for how things are right now, It's Celebrini, Eiserman, 1 and 2. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about these guys and the prospects heading into the 2024 NHL Draft. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.